Hello and welcome to this edition of the Alaska Report. I'm Senator Lisa Murkowski. This month I get to be part of a show that really is one of the favorite things that I get to do, and that's to introduce the interns that join my office. I have two groups of summer interns. They come for a month. 10 students from around the state of Alaska. This is a great opportunity for them to see the work of the Senate, the legislative process, really from the inside. And it's a great opportunity for me because I'm surrounded with great Alaskan energy, some wonderful young people from the state who are part of our summer internship program. So with that, I'd like to introduce my interns for the first session from around the state. When we do this program, it's a great opportunity because they not only get to be here on the show, be introduced, but they get to turn the tables a little bit and ask me questions instead of the other way around. So I'm going to start at this end with you, Liz, if you can identify yourself, the town that you're from, your school, and then go ahead with any questions that you might have that you think the folks back home want to know about.
Hi, I'm Liz Weetall, and I'm from Anchorage. Senator, do you think that obesity in America is a problem that should be handled at the federal, state, or on a personal level, and why?
Well, let's just start with the issue of obesity in general. We've got a real problem in this country, and I think we see it as we look at our rising healthcare costs. But I think we need to appreciate that in Alaska, it's even a more difficult issue. They say that for any child that is born after the year 2000, 1 in 3 of those children will be overweight or obese. We are the 15th fattest state in the country. Those aren't good statistics for us, and for many, many reasons. But when you think about how you take care of yourself, how you keep your own healthcare costs down, it starts with some pretty basic things: a good diet, good exercise, and there are a lot of things that we can do individually. So there's obligation or responsibility at the very personal level. But there also is a role that I think can be played at the state and at the federal level. One of the things that I have been working on is an awareness of what it is that we eat. In our school lunch programs that are funded by the federal government, many of them, the free and reduced lunch programs, I wanted to make sure that the nutritional standards were up to date. We hadn't updated them in decades. And so some of the things that our kids were getting in the school lunches were not necessarily healthy. So there is a responsibility at all levels. But my view is that it starts with the individual, with a commitment to just being responsible, eating well, and exercising well. But it's a problem for us in this state and in the country. Good to have you here, Liz. Eva.
Hi, I am Eva Kohlberg. I'm from Palmer. Senator, could you tell me, are there any senatorial processes that you wish you could change?
It's a good question, and I think there are many processes in the United States Senate that people are they look at it and it's like, wow, what just went on there? Sometimes some of our rules are pretty arcane. They're pretty hard to understand. One that I think is not very well understood is this process of the filibuster. I think most people, if they think of a filibuster, they think, oh, that's something where a senator has to go down and they have to hold the floor for the entire time and keep talking and talking and talking. Our rules are not necessarily that way. You can pretty much bring about a filibuster just by withholding consent and making sure that you've got 40 votes to kind of block something. One of the areas where I'm concerned about the impact of a filibuster is as it relates to our judicial nominees. There are 3 separate but equal branches of government. You all learned that in school. Our job in the Senate, one of the responsibilities that we have that is unique to the Senate, is when the president nominates somebody for the judicial branch, we as the Senate step up in a process called advice and consent. We basically have to sign off on that judicial nominee. If we fail to do that, then what happens is that separate but equal branch, the judiciary branch, doesn't get the judges that it needs. I have made a pretty strong commitment in saying that we need to move through the process on these judicial nominees. Filibustering a judicial nominee, particularly at a circuit court level, is not good for the process. If I oppose that judge or oppose that person to be named a judge, I'll vote against him. But we at least have to have the opportunity to vote up or down. That is one of the processes here in the Senate that I think deserves closer scrutiny and change. But thanks, Eva. Nice to have you here. Bethany.
My name is Bethany Laddick, and I'm from Unalaska. And Senator, I was wondering what your favorite part is about representing Alaska as a United States Senator.
That one, to me, is a really easy one. It's all about the people. The people in our state are extraordinary. And I think as young Alaskans, you're probably sensing that things are different here in Washington, D.C. People move really fast. They're all very busy, very purposeful. They don't, a lot of times there's no eye contact. You just move straight on through. You're in a metro. You don't have that personal engagement. You get back home and people, maybe they slow down just a little bit. They speak to one another. When I'm back home, it's not Senator Murkowski, it's Lisa. And that's the way it should, that's the way it is. That's the way it is, and that's a good thing. There's a I think a real connection that Alaskans have one to another, an openness, a friendliness where we're good neighbors, or I'd like to think we're good neighbors. We're pretty direct with one another, and that's a good thing. Back here, there's a lot of political correctness, and you're never quite sure what some may have said. So it really is about Alaskans. I think there's an independent spirit there that I like, I respect, and I think when I say what is different about Alaska, it is just the very genuine nature of the people of an incredible state. I couldn't be luckier than to be able to represent them. Nice to have you here. Elizabeth from Fairbanks. I don't mean to steal your line here. Go ahead.
That's okay. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wisenhant from Fairbanks. And Senator Murkowski, interior Alaska's population and jobs are being threatened by the transfer of F-16s from Allison Air Force Base to J-Bear. Do you see any hope in saving the base from these threats?
Well, we're working very, very, very hard to ensure that the Air Force and really the entire military understands the extent of this proposal and the negative impacts that it will have not only on the Fairbanks and the interior area, but really on Anchorage as well. I don't think that this is a well thought out move, and I've expressed that very, very clearly to the Air Force, the chief, to the Secretary of Defense, anybody who is within earshot. I, along with the rest of the Alaska delegation, have been very, very clear in saying this is not a well thought out move. Back in 2005, the Air Force tried this same approach through a BRAC, a base realignment. They've come back now, some 5-6 years later, and are trying to make the same case again in saying that somehow or other this is going to save money. We're not seeing savings in this next year. It's going to cost over $5 million. We're not going to see savings in the year following. It will still cost, and these are costs that the Air Force that the President has not budgeted. The impact on the families is what concerns me. We are going to be putting the airmen who live in Fairbanks and North Pole in a situation where they may not be able to sell their home. Moving then to a housing market in Anchorage that is already strained at higher prices. The situation with the schools, we don't know that there will be adequate room within the schools, within the area that they would need to be. And think about the impact on the schools up north. And if we're doing all this and it's not actually saving the Air Force money and it's not enhancing our strategic position, I'm not convinced that it's a smart move. We have asked the Air Force to hold off on this at least for a year for further and more considered study. I'm hopeful that they're going to take us up on this and provide for a little more scrutiny to this proposal. And Connor, you're at the end here.
Hello, my name is Connor Toohey from Anchorage. My question for you, Senator, is one that's going to be on the minds of many Americans in the coming months. What issues are most important for you when choosing a presidential candidate in the upcoming election?
Well, when I think of our presidential nominees, or we will soon nominate through the convention process, I don't look to where they are on like one specific issue, because I know that throughout the term of a president, the issues are going to change. We may or may not be still engaged in Afghanistan 4 years from now. We may or may not be in the midst of a recession right now. So I don't focus in so much on where they are on a particular issue of the day. I look more to the characteristics and the trait of the individual. I want somebody that is a proven leader. And in this time of high unemployment and really a time when our nation is struggling economically, I want somebody who knows and understands how to run things. It's nice to have somebody that is a smart, an academic, a learned person. But I want somebody that has that hands-on experience. I want somebody that, again, has those leadership qualities where they have demonstrated that they've got the ability to come in and manage. Managing a country is a pretty tall order. So this can't be something where it's kind of on-the-job training, if you will. I want to see some demonstrated success out there. I want an individual that is well-grounded in his or her values and has a level of integrity that I think is beyond reproach. I think that's what we want in so many of our leaders. So I'm not looking necessarily to the issues themselves so much as what kind of leadership qualities and traits has that individual demonstrated over his or her lifetime and in their career. So it's going to be interesting summer as we move into the conventions at the end of the summer and then in the fall when things are really going to heat up. This is an important election in this country. I think we all recognize that these are some pretty pivotal times, and so the election of our president is important. Don't know if all of you are 18 yet, but if you are, I would certainly encourage you to be engaged, make that happen when you go to the polls. And we're going to take a quick break and then start with our friends in the back here.
Every trip, every time.
California, here I come!
Buckle up so you and your friends get home safely.
I must scream into the world from the top of someplace very high.
Seatbelts save lives.
Okay.
Visit NHTSA.gov.
Low and slow. My best friend, what are you gonna do?
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
That is spectacular advice.
Okay, now let's move up to the back row. Michelle, why don't you lead off there?
Hello, my name is Michelle Fernandez, and I'm from Unalaska. Senator, since gas is so costly to so many Alaskans, especially to those in rural communities, what steps do you think can be made to eventually make gas more affordable and accessible to all Alaskan regions? Well, as we know, whether you're from Unalaska or Bethel or Anchorage, our gas prices are higher than most any other state that is out there. Hawaii sometimes is right up there with us, but particularly in our very rural communities, we recognize that we pay extraordinarily high amounts for our gas, for our diesel, and that impacts
just the general cost of living. I was looking at what's happening out in Unalaska with prices, and unleaded is just a little below $5, at least this week. But in certain parts of the state, up in Kotzebue, they're paying over $7 for the gasoline. And you think about how many of our communities are powered by diesel, and the cost to the communities, the cost to the families, it's extraordinary. And it's no wonder that we see this out-migration from some of our smaller villages simply because of our high energy costs, our high cost of gasoline. So what are we doing? I am one that, as I focus on the energy issues, always trying to figure out how we can make a difference locally. But so much of what we're talking about when it comes to oil is dictated by events around the world. Oil is set on a world market. So the less we use, the less we're going to be impacted. The more that we can produce domestically, I think, can help to reduce those prices that we pay. But it is everything from making sure that we have adequate supplies, so that there are cushions within that market that set the price. I think that's an important part of it. What we can do to conserve and be more efficient with our use, I think, is also important. But we also recognize that we have many, many opportunities with regards to renewable energy sources. So how we are able to build those out, I think, is going to be important to us. We've got coastal communities that are recognizing the benefits of wind generation, but that's an intermittent source. It's not your baseline. So how we can integrate some of our renewable energy sources with our more traditional fuel sources, this is going to be the answer. But I'm always pushing for the new technologies that will allow us to be more energy independent, more energy self-sustaining, particularly in some of our smaller communities. I think we should take some of the revenues from our fossil fuels. I'd like to get ANWR open, use some of that revenue to help build out the technologies for our energy futures. Great question, big issue in our state. Thanks for being here. Ariana.
Hello, my name is Ariana Kokalis, and I'm from Anchorage. Senator, what do you consider is the biggest challenge facing young Alaskans today, and what can be done to ease this challenge?
Well, as I look at you, as I think of my two sons that are your age, and thinking about their future, what I worry about is whether or not there will be the jobs and the opportunities for my kids to come back to the state and say, this is where I'm going to raise my family. If you've got a good job and a good opportunity, you will stay in the state. I look at you, we've talked about where you're going next, the schools that you'll be attending, whether it's in the University of Alaska system or whether it's going outside, whether it's staying locally. These are all big choices, big decisions as you move on. But ultimately, I think you want to know that you can come back after you've gotten your education or gotten your education in the state in order to stay there. You need to know that you're going to have an opportunity for you. So how we build out these jobs, how we make sure that they're there for the long haul, that they're good jobs that can sustain you and your families. This, I think, is the biggest challenge that we face. Our number one economic driver in the state has been the oil industry. We're seeing oil on the decline. Our pipeline is less than half full. What are we doing to not only build up that industry, but build up other industries, those industries that are going to attract bright young people like you and keep them in the state? So I think it's all about opportunity. And that's one of the challenges that I face every day is what can we do to make Alaska the most attractive place to be, to raise your families, to live there and really enjoy that level of security and happiness. Good question. Ashley.
Whaka huinga gama Ashley naninga wa mamtari sa ramyungunga. Hi, my name is Ashley Nanning and I'm from Bethel. My question is, in Alaska, suicide is a major problem. As a senator and an Alaskan, what have you done to prevent suicide in our state?
Ashley, it's a great question. And coming from Bethel, being Yupik, you know what we're seeing out in certain regions of our state. You probably have friends that look at this as more than a series of statistics. Suicide is just a horrible scourge in our state, and unfortunately, we're seeing far too many of our young people make the decision to take their own life. And unfortunately, we're seeing far too many of young Alaska Natives and young Alaska Native men who are making these decisions. We have to be there to provide hope. We need to be able to provide that support. It can be done through a variety of ways. I held a roundtable out in Bethel a couple of years ago to focus just exactly on this problem. What can we do? We don't necessarily want to take a program that has been developed in Massachusetts and put it out in Bethel and say, here's your suicide prevention program. It needs to come from within. It needs to come from within the communities, the people. And I brought in the young people to ask them, what is it that we can be doing? Are we not listening? Are we not seeing? Where is the gap here? We learned a lot, but we also learned that we need to know so much more. I've been working at the federal level to try to increase funding for suicide prevention, for the helplines. We know that we can do more from that perspective, but we also have to remember that not everything comes down to asking for a federal grant or an appropriation. Oftentimes, it's just making sure that somebody knows that they're appreciated, that they're cared for, that they are respected. And so I urge young people, talk to one another. If somebody is just out of sorts or something's not right, don't just kind of blow it off and say, it'll be okay. Reach out. And don't be afraid to tell people that you respect them, that you care for them, that you love them. Oftentimes, it just has to start from us as well. This is an issue, Ashley, I appreciate you raising it. It's one area that I find so troubling. I feel like we have so many opportunities in our state. Think about our resource wealth. Think about the beauty that we have in Alaska. Think about the remarkable people that we have. And yet our suicide statistics are horrible. And that just eats at me that we have so many who feel that there is no hope. So this is something that we all need to work on together. And I'm committed to doing just that. Thank you. Clarissa.
Hi, I'm Clarissa Olmeyer from Juneau. Many high school graduates have trouble finding their major and career goals. What made you decide to jump into the world of politics, and what advice do you give a young adult wanting to start a political career?
Well, what I love to give free advice when it comes to your education and where you might want to go. Don't think that you need to have a degree in political science in order to go into politics. In fact, you should really be focused on something that you're just passionate and that you really care about. Because when you're in politics, you need to be able to convey your passion. You need to be able to say, this is something that I feel so strongly about. I'm willing to put myself in a public position, put my ideas out there, take the shots and arrows that may come because people disagree with me, but I feel so passionately about it that I'm willing to do that. So find an area that excites you. Don't be afraid to step up, step out, take a little bit of risk. Because politics is kind of a risky business. Again, you're putting your ideas and your opinions out there and you're asking people to weigh in on them. That's what an election is all about. And so develop those things, those issues, those ideas that you're passionate about, follow through with them. Get out front, take a little risk, speak up, and you may find that it's taken you some interesting places. One of the things that I do advise people when they say, well, are there any courses that I should take if I'm interested in politics? Of course, history and understanding where we have been is extraordinarily important, but you sure need to love to read in order to be able to do this job. I have an extraordinary amount of reading that I do on a daily basis. That's okay, because I love to read and I love to learn. Every day it's about learning something new. That's why this is such an incredible job. And last but not least, we have Zach, who's from Fairbanks. And Zach has asked that I kind of pitch the question here. But Zach, it's been a delight to have you as part of the team here this summer. Zach wanted to know, so my upbringing in Alaska, what has that really given me in terms of shaping my values? And I think a couple of you were shadowing me the other day when I was talking about this to a constituent. And the fact that I have been raised in so many different Alaskan communities, that I call so many towns in the state my home, has given me, I think, a pretty unique insight into some of the issues that we face as Alaskans. I was born down in Ketchikan and spent my early years in Wrangell and in Juneau. And then we were in Fairbanks for high school. My husband and I have been raising our sons in Anchorage. Had a sister who lived out in Unalaska, and then she was in Kodiak and Seward. And I feel like I've got roots in so many places in Alaska that it's easy to be passionate about this place, because as large as it is, I feel connected to so many parts of this amazing state. I love Alaska. I just love every part of it. Every part is unique and beautiful. And the opportunities that I think we have for young people, for our seniors who decide that they want to retire there, I think that they're limitless. And sometimes it's hard. We've got some tough weather. We've got some tough things that face us. We talked about suicide, some of our statistics that are hard. But you know, at the end of the day, it is just such a remarkable place. And it's so worth fighting for. It's so worth getting up in the morning and working really hard, trying to educate my colleagues about why we need to do this for Alaska. It's so worth every long flight between Washington, D.C. to Alaska, because I'm going back to a place that I really feel passionate about. And I guess if I have any free advice that I'll give y'all, it's again, finding your passion and really just running with it. But Zach, thanks for the question, because it allows me to be able to just run a little bit. I appreciate that. And I appreciate those of you who have tuned in to watch the show. I think you can see from this group of interns, we have some remarkable young men and women from around the state. I learn something from them every day, and hopefully they're gaining from this experience here in Washington, D.C. as well. I thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Alaska Report.